Hi everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with my most disappointing reads of 2019, and I think I have like 9 books slash series on this list because there's definitely some series that are like bumming me out a little bit. But yeah, we're going to talk about the books that disappointed me the most. These are books that I gave like 3 stars or lower, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad book. It just means that I kind of expected a little bit more from them. So yeah, let's get started. Actually, I think I've mentioned some of these books in different tags and also of course my wrap-ups, so some of these may not come as a surprise. It's definitely too hard to put them in some kind of order, so I'm just gonna like throw it out there. But yeah, I can definitely say like my top 2, like for sure. One of the months that really terribly put me in a reading slump for a really long time, and that was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I just never got into the story. It was really dull. I didn't really care about any of the characters, not even the main character, and it's supposed to be about a little boy trying to become an assassin, because this book starts when he's like 6, I think, and we get to follow him for several years, and I feel like nothing happens. He doesn't kill anybody for like forever, and it's just so freaking boring. And I've definitely decided not to pick up the rest of the books in this trilogy. I don't know if I'm ever gonna read any more Robin Hobb. I kind of got scared off of this from reading this book, but at the same time I know that she's a really popular author. She's written like 5 billion books. But yeah, this was just not for me, and I think I ended up giving this book like 1.5 stars, something like that, and this is definitely on the top 2 of most disappointing books of the year. And the second book that definitely deserves to be on the top 2, I actually think Assassin's Apprentice was a little bit worse for me, but that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I had heard so many great things about this book. The entire series actually won the year for, was it the Hugo Award? I don't know, some kind of award, and each and every book got it for that particular year that it got out. I heard great things, it got great reviews, really high ratings on Goodreads and everything, but I did not like the writing style at all, and I thought that the premise sounded really promising, but it was just really boring. I didn't really fall for any of the characters. I didn't like the writing. It was such a slow book, like nothing happened for really long periods of time, and in the end when stuff finally started to happen, I just did not give a shit anymore, and I was just honestly really bored. So I'm not going to continue on with this series. I don't remember the rating I gave for it, so I'll just write it down here. But yeah, definitely a very disappointing read. And then just going to mention some other books that was really disappointing, but I don't really have a particular order for them. And that is The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. Once again, another assassin kind of book. There's a lot of those on this list actually. You'll see. I had previously read The Black Prison by Brent Weeks, which is a completely different series, but I really did enjoy that one. I actually think I gave that 4 stars. But The Way of Shadows was, once again, really dull. Nothing really happened. I didn't really care about the characters, and I really forced myself to continue reading it, and I was bored, and I just did not care, even though there was somewhat interesting plot twists at the end. It was just too late, and I just didn't give a shit anymore. So this definitely deserves to be here as well. And now we have It by Stephen King, which is the audiobook that I struggled through a lot. It's like 42 hours long or something, and I listened to the entire thing, and it was like not scary, but sometimes it was a little bit gross and weird, and it was just I didn't really like it at all. It definitely had some interesting elements in the story, but overall I just wasn't hooked on it. I was kind of so about the characters as well, and just felt like the book was way too long, way too many pages or hours depending on how you read it, and I was just never hooked on it, so kind of forced myself to listen to that one as well. But yeah, we have The Steel Prince by V.E. Schwab. This was actually the graphic novel that is supposed to take place before Dark Shadow Magic series. This is supposed, I think it's supposed to be a trilogy, or there's 5 volumes, I don't really know. They're not out all yet at least. And in this one we're supposed to follow the king from the Dark Shadow Magic series. Is his name Maxon Max, I don't really remember. Anyways, the king from that series, we're supposed to follow him from his younger days, and I was really like looking forward to this series because I love the Dark Shade of Magic series, but this was a graphic novel, so yes, you don't really get as much information out of it, but I was a little bit confused. I didn't really like the art style because everybody pretty much looked the same. And I was confused and kind of bored, and that's to say a lot because it's a graphic novel. It's really quick to read, and I was bored during that time. And I just decided that I'm not going to continue on with this series, even though it did have some interesting like magic elements, which is something I always do really like. But overall, I was just not having it with this graphic novel, which makes me really sad because I'd actually really look forward to it. And now I have one of those series that's just kind of so-so. I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's just kind of in the middle. And that is the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. As you guys know, I had as a reading goal to finish everything Brandon Sanderson. Obviously failed at that. But yeah, and to be able to do so, I had to finish the last 3 books in the Wheel of Time series because those were the ones that he had written after Robert Jordan died. And well, I did get through quite a lot of them, like I think 11, 10 and a half, I don't really know, about 11 or something like that, and was just the Brandon Sanderson books left, seriously. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first one, and then I just felt like it was just the same story kind of repeating itself over and over again, and I did like some of the characters, but after a while I just couldn't be bothered anymore. And I feel like it's a really interesting concept and it's interesting like magic and everything like that, but there's just some, it's just, the books are too long, the series are too long, it's very repetitive, and I don't know, just not a new fave. I have Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds, and this is a contemporary book, and this is about a timeline that keeps repeating itself, and I know that's not like my favorite kind of trope, you know, but I can survive a few times with it if it's done really well. And I just it repeats itself like I think it's 11 times or something like that, and after like 3 or 4 I was kind of over it. I did really like the characters in the beginning, and I feel like the plot was really interesting, and like the subplots as well, and kind of the entire reason for why the time restarts and everything like that was really interesting. But it was just over and over and over and over again, and it's, after a while I couldn't take it anymore. And it's just, I don't know, the main characters kind of made some choices that I didn't really agree with, and didn't really understand why he would take those choices when he knew what the outcome would be, and that it wouldn't really be a good choice. Trying really hard not to spoil anything here, but it just kind of annoyed me, and at the end of the day I just didn't care anymore because it was just too repetitive. And the 8th book I want to talk about is The Exact Opposite of Okay by Laura Stephen. This is another contemporary book. I don't really mention contemporary books on this list very often, I feel like, but this year it's 2. But the reason I didn't like this one was I didn't really like the writing style. I didn't really like the main character. She was very self-centered, and it kind of felt like her problems was a lot bigger than her friends' problems were, and she was kind of a douche to them, and she was even like in some aspects kind of the reason why her friends were having problems, and it was just not good. And also the humor in the book was just not my type of humor at all. I felt like she was kind of making jokes out of things that wasn't funny, and jokes that you shouldn't really, you know, joke about, because there was actually real events that was really horrible and ruining a shitload of lives, and I just feel like don't make jokes about that because it ain't funny. So yeah, I definitely had to force myself to continue reading this book, and it was not worth it. And the last one I want to talk about is actually sort of a series. I actually had 2 books in this series this year, and that is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I read Queen of Shadows and Emperor of Storms by her. Both definitely put me in a reading slump. I did really enjoy the first 2 books in this series I read like 2 years ago, is it? I don't know. And I took a really long pause between the second and the third book. Didn't really care for the third book that much. I was kind of bored. And then the fourth and the fifth kind of just continued that way. I just definitely forced myself to read them just to finish another series. And I might still finish it just for the sake of having read 5 books out of 7. But I might do it over a longer period of time, like next year. But I really liked Selena in the first 2 books, but now I just don't really care about her. I don't really, sometimes kind of have sort of mixed feelings for the male characters in the series. Sometimes I like them, and sometimes I feel like they're kind of, you know, too controlling, telling her Selena what to do and what not to do. And I mean, she's a very strong female character, so that's good, but not really happy about the male characters at all points. And I was just struggling so much because they were really hefty books, and I felt like not a lot was happening, and sometimes it was kind of a little bit predictable, and I was just not having it. So that is why those 2 books are definitely on this list. So yeah, these were all of the 9 books or series I was going to talk about in this video. Please let me know down below if you have read any of these books and what, in that case, you thought about them, without spoiling anybody, of course. And if you like this video, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the button down below. And yeah, I hope to see each other in the next one. Bye!